I didn't cut it all that, you know, I cut it just fast and quick, so my gaps are a little bit big, so yeah. Speed's a thing. You got another helmet, Sammy? You wanna watch how I do this?
Oh my God, he was.
You want to see how it's done?
Sam's Garage is brought to you by Brothers Truck Parts. On this episode of Sam's Garage, Sam will showcase a product from NHOU that will protect your vehicle from rust and corrosion. With the help of Brothers Truck Parts, Sam will replace rusted out panels on their project truck. Kevin and Sam will get to work on the Buick Skylark's fuel injection system. Then Doug and Sam will install the front end back on the Hudson Hornet. Let's get ready as Sam shows how to protect your vehicle from road salt and brine with do-it-yourself kits from NHOU.
We got my 2001 Silverado here, and I've got Joe from NH Oil Undercoating, and he's going to explain and show us the process that goes behind his oil undercoating and how it protects your vehicle.
Okay, so first let me explain how oil works differently than conventional undercoating. So an example like this, you have pre-existing rust. A lot of people would just paint that rust. What the problem with painting that rust is you trap moisture, oxygen, looks nice, 6 months later it starts coming through, you found out you did nothing but mask it, okay? Oil is actually gonna penetrate that rust down to the base metal, displace moisture, and without either moisture or oxygen in the equation, you stop oxidation. So what our oil will do will not only protect the surface, but it'll stop oxidation. But when you put this product inside, it creeps and migrates. So when we hit, it'll go into the spot wells, the seams. And we have a product now for somebody who has pre-existing rust that wants to protect it, but also wants to improve the appearance, is we have a black. So this is our back in black, okay? And this will give you all the protection of our clear, but will substantially improve the appearance. We also have a big problem, and I guess down south it's even bigger. I didn't realize.
Yes.
A big problem is the manufacturers, to go green, have gone to a wiring coating that's soy-based as opposed to petroleum. Now, rodents are already a problem.
They're attracted to that.
Yeah. Well, so what we came out with was we found out that mice do not like stepping in the oil. I know that as a fact. And we said, well, let's do a two-stage protection. So we have oil, but we also put a menthol essential oil mint in there. They have very sensitive noses. So you can spray your wiring harnesses. This will actually, no solvents, no detergent, so it's not gonna hurt the wiring. It's gonna protect it the same as it would a metal surface, but you're also gonna eliminate that rodent problem.
And you know, here in the South, we may not have so much salt issues because we only get snow once in a while, but we have a huge problem with rodents. And that silicone shielding is pretty much candy to these guys. I can't tell you how many times over the years in my shop I've had to go in and do extensive, expensive wiring harness repairs, electrical repairs due to rodents. That this is going to take care of a lot of those problems. That's awesome.
And as a byproduct, you're going to protect that from corrosion. You know, a lot of when you find these cars, they take them out of floods. They actually will spray a product like ours on these very expensive wiring, electrical connections and harnesses, and let them set a couple of days because it'll displace moisture.
Yes, they'll wick up into the wire.
And it doesn't conduct electricity, so it's a win-win.
Absolutely. And you know, if you guys, there's an aerosol can, but Joe also sells a spray can. You want to regulate this with shop air down to about 50 or 60 PSI. This is going to do a real good job of getting the entire undercoating. And that's pretty much for tight spaces or any kind of touch-up that you have to do, correct?
Correct. This is designed really as a touch-up. This product has been thinned out in order to get it out of the aerosol
This is going to be darker if you're using a black.
Correct.
Okay, I see how much better this one little section works. Now, can you imagine taking an older truck like this, almost 19, 20 years old, and doing the entire undercoating, making it look all black and new again.
But you know, you're not just masking it and making it look pretty, you're actually doing something that's stopping corrosion.
Yep, and you gotta prep that vehicle, so make sure if you guys wanna protect your undercoat and get the rust to stop, check out NH Oil Undercoating.
When we come back, Sam teams up with Brothers Truck Parts, replacing worn-out rocker panels on their project truck. Sam's Garage is brought to you by Brothers Truck Parts. Sam's Garage is brought to you by these fine companies. Welcome back. Sam and Brothers Truck Parts will demonstrate how to repair those rusted out panels on your 1947 to 87 Chevy and GMC trucks.
We're gonna be doing something different today on the show. We've got David here, and we're gonna be showing you guys the best way to do rust repair. Now, anywhere there is snow or salty air like Florida, and you don't have something like NH Oil undercoating to protect your vehicle, you're gonna have rust. So what we have is we got Dave here. He's a mastermind at doing cutting and welding and body repair, and I'm gonna be basically helping him out today.
Oh, that's sweet. First thing you want to do when you get a truck like this is assess the overall truck. Is it put together with 10 different trucks? Has it been in accidents or anything like that? This is a nice original truck. Doesn't really look like it's had any trouble. The reason you want to assess the truck is because you want these lines to be nice and tight when you're done. So if there's been any accidents or anything like that, you're going to have to see what's going on behind the scenes and fix that too. Just going to cut stuff off and weld it back on, that's not good enough. You have to look at the overall picture first before you get your game plan started.
That's a great idea. And I see that we're going to be taking a lot of hardware behind the skin off. So this is a great time to go back maybe ahead of the project and use some penetrating lube on all your hardware so that it makes it much easier. And this is where you guys don't want to use air. You want to use hand tools because that speed will create friction, which will cause problems.
Just give you more troubles. It'll twist your metal and all kinds of things like that. So use hand tools as much as possible. For instance, back here, you've got caged nuts. They're actually welded on the back side where you're not going to be able to get a hold of them. You put a speed on that and you strip it out, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, that's going to be a real bear to get behind there and repair that.
It's possible, but I don't want to do it.
I can't wait to get this started. Let's do it.
All right, well, let's take it apart and then get on it, baby. Now, let's say we're taking off a bolt like this and it starts getting to be real hard on you. Don't just keep on doing it. Take a little bit of oil, shoot it on there, and screw it back in. Now, the reason you're doing that is because on the back side of the nut, what's happening when you're bringing it back, all that dirt and rust and stuff, it's getting jammed into the nut. So we're gonna move it forward, we're gonna knock off that rust and stuff, and then we can take it out the rest of the way. On the leftover rust, you can also sandblast it, but whatever you do, make sure you kill the rust first and then go ahead and paint it. Now we're ready to install this patch panel. I've already cut this down to a little bit smaller size. It's not quite ready for this yet because I'm gonna have to keep trimming it on down until I get it to fit just nice. I might have to play with my curvature down here.
Wow, Dave, you got a lot of work done. Looks like that patch panel is ready to be welded in.
Yeah, just about is, but we've got this edge right here, and it's a bit too fat to fold over onto the brace right here. It's necessary in the manufacturing process in order to get all this to come out right. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna trim off some of that. I'm gonna go about 3/8 of an inch, maybe 1/4 of an inch, and I'm just gonna draw me a line right here, and then I'm just gonna go ahead and cut this piece off, and then I'll be able to fold it over nice and neat. So let me do that and I'll show you what comes next.
Very cool. That way it's gonna look just like this above right here.
Right, right. Even though you can't see the back, I still like to do everything as original looking as possible.
Cool, very cool. Okay. And so is that gap okay right there?
Yeah, so what's gonna happen is your inclination might be that you want your metal to just sit butt up against each other. But the problem with that is that if you weld on that, the weld can't sink through as well. And so the weld will generally tend to stay on top. And then when you grind off the weld, you're breaking your weld. So you wanna have a little bit of a gap for the weld to actually go down and hold all the metal together. When you grind that off, you're still gonna be good to go.
And that basically goes to saying that your metal work is the most important portion of this, because anytime you do prep work, the more prep work you do, the better your outcome will be. Man, Dave, that was a lot of work, but looks like you showed them enough what they need to know to be able to go ahead and do the front portion of this fender.
Yeah, if you can do the back, you can do the front. Everything's the same gig. Keep your heat down, take your time. If you mess up anything, just stop, hammer weld it back in place, then continue on.
The most important thing is prep. The more body work you do, the more metal work you do, the less body work you're going to do. And then make sure to go back with some paint and cover up any bare metal as you're working on something else. Just keep the rust down.
Yeah.
Up next, Sam and guest Kevin Ford work on installing the fuel injection system in the Buick Skylark project.
Well, Kevin, we're finally down to the meat and potatoes of this project. Can't wait to install this Holley E08 system.
Yeah, I'm excited to get into it. It looks like a really clean, easy to install system. All the wires are terminated. They're labeled, so we know where everything goes.
High quality sub harnesses where we're going to be running a throttle body fly-by-wire. They've even got the sub harness for that. This is where you guys want to make sure to do a tedious, good job, because you want the wires to be nice and cleanly ran, away from anything sharp, away from anything hot like the exhaust. And you want to, even though this is weatherproof, put the computer up somewhere in the fender or even better inside the car.
Yeah, and if the better you do installing this now, the less problems you have later. And if you ever do have a problem, it's easier to go back on it and get into the...
This really is a great system, Kevin. This is where you want to really take your time and prep the engine bay, because there's a lot going on with this wire harness. You've got sub harnesses, you've got power and ground, you got to make sure everything's good. So what Kevin and I did was we went ahead and cleaned up the engine bay of stuff that we know we're not going to need, just to give us an idea of where we can route this harness, because it is pre-made, and so it gives us less of an, have to extend a bunch of stuff. The easier you can make it and the less disturbed we can keep that harness, the better.
Absolutely. You lose a little bit of flexibility, but it's worth it to have all these good connections. You don't want to have to sit there and splice if you don't have to.
Or disturb the loom. It's so nice, nicely wrapped, everything's cool. What we opted to do was go ahead and remove the intake manifold, because we are going to run this branch underneath the intake manifold for cleansiness. Now, anytime you guys do that, always make sure to cover up your ports, so in case something falls in, even the smallest little washer can ruin your day. You can use painter's tape, or you don't want to use duct tape, painter's tape, or put rags in them. But just remember to pull that stuff off or out before you put the intake on.
Yeah, it makes a different noise.
That'll ruin your year. All right, so let's go ahead and power through. We're going to go and put our batteries in place. We're going to go ahead and pre-run our harness just to make sure that we've got the correct lengths.
And now we've got a few options that we're not using, so we're going to clean this up by taking these off.
Yeah, because we're running a throttle by wire.
That's right.
So we don't need TPS, IAC, stuff like that.
Right.
All right. And the cool thing about the Holley is that it's got its own sensors if you guys want to do some serious tuning, and it'll even hook up to the factory sensor, so it gives you both options. That's what's cool. All right, so what we're doing here is we're going to go ahead and bolt up our starter, and I'm using the starter's power wire, the heavy power wire, as a junction point for the power circuit, both for the alternator, for powering up the room inside, and for the power to the battery for the starter. Okay, so I've got my heavy wires down here. There's nothing wrong with using this as a junction point. That's what they did back in the day, and it's all, the circuits are fused, so we're good. Now, even though you guys can see that this eye on the starter is a little close to the header, but we're fine because both are stationary, nothing's gonna move, and so we should be good. I could put a finger in between the power wire and the header runner, so we should be fine. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and tighten it up. And when you guys are finished here, please make sure to go back and tie up all your power wires. Now the ground wire, if you short circuit that, it's no big deal. But if you short circuit the power wire and you don't have a fuse, you're gonna burn your car down, and we don't want that. Well, Kevin, we've come a long way. This is not a job most people can take on, you know?
No, I've actually rerouted this wire 4 or 5 times. I think I finally found a perfect spot for us to get this hooked up.
And it's just like the fuel tank. You got to take things on and off a few times to make sure that you do it perfectly. I've got the throttle body harness here, and I only got 2 of these strapped down zip ties. We have to make sure we do it right.
Yeah, we will. So once we get all this done, we can get under the car and hook everything else up.
Yep, so this is it for this week. Next week, we're going to go ahead and finish up the project as far as the harness and the fuel injection goes. We're going to put on our intake manifold, and we're getting that much closer to firing this baby up.
When we return, the highly anticipated Hudson Hornet rebuild project will be back on Sam's Garage. Welcome back to Sam's Garage, presented by Brothers Truck Parts. Welcome back to Sam's Garage, where we continue working on the Hudson Hornet project. Sam and Doug Harris install the front end on the Hornet that gives it that iconic Hudson look.
This is the exciting part. This is where the Hudson's front end goes together and it becomes a car again. I've got Mike from Lewis Rod and Customs, and he's the mastermind behind the bodywork on this for Doug Harris from H&M Saw. We've got the front end here. Now today I'm gonna be just basically helping out, supervising, which is nice. I don't have to work really hard. The first thing we're gonna do, Mike, by the way, beautiful job.
Thank you very much,
Such
Sam.
a great job on this car.
I really appreciate it.
The underneath, the attention to detail, the final finish on the paint, it's phenomenal. Even the
it's
trim,
wonderful. Yeah.
the steering wheel. I mean, they did everything in-house. Very cool.
Thank you very much. We take a lot of pride in our work.
Yeah, we
Absolutely.
really
It
appreciate
shows.
it. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. If my father saw this, he'd be ecstatic.
He really would. He probably have some jokes too.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So a lot of this, of course, is painted. All the threads are got paint in them. So the first thing you want to do when you're doing a job like this is go back and chase all the threads so that your hardware goes in nice and clean. And the hardware, I think you should replace with new hardware just because everything on the car is new. You don't want to use 70-year-old hardware, even if they're in good shape. You said you had tried to clean some up, but it just wasn't up to your liking, right?
No, when you sandblast it, it just loses the detail of the bolt, and plus the bolt doesn't fit as tight anymore because you're sandblasting all the material away.
There you go. That's a good idea. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to tap all the holes, get our hardware ready, and put this front end on. You guys ready?
Yeah, let's get it.
Let's do it.
You got to let me know where you want the tape.
Like down this edge right here with the cow, and then all the way down the edge of the fender to the bottom. Just to keep from chipping the paint on the car. It gives us a little bit of a barrier. Yes, and then we'll just peel it off after we get it installed or get the front end fitting. I'm putting like 3 layers on each one.
All right, got it.
Here's a tip for you guys. Whenever you're doing a tapping, a hole, chasing it, whatever, you have a tap, you notice there's 4 grooves in the tap, and you are doing something tedious and you don't want the metal shavings to go anywhere, take a little bit of grease and put it in between the grooves. And when you go in to do the chasing, the material will sit in the middle where the grease is, and there'll be a lot less material where you're working. Okay, and then also, if you're not going to use the grease and you're just chasing the thread, you want to make sure to lube the threads on the tap so that it goes in and out of the threads on the whatever you're chasing and makes a nice clean thread.
Yeah, otherwise it'll start to bind and gall, and you'll have some real issue with it.
You have a really good tip as to when to use gloves.
Yeah, there's a certain time you want to make sure with gloves that you get your gloves on. Anytime you have bare metal, once you get it clean, before you go ahead and you coat it or you prep the metal itself, if I touch this with my hands have oils onto it, and those oils will go ahead and start to create rust. So it's real important that you're getting ready to deal with bare metal, that you go ahead and put a set of gloves on. It'll save you a lot of time and effort, especially when you're doing the body work, because some of the things that can happen, you can touch a body when it's bare and then put primer on it, but if you don't get those oils off, it'll come back years later. So make sure you know when to use gloves.
And there is nothing wrong with staying clean and working hard. All right, Mike, Doug, and I are ready to put this front end on. Now, this is where you guys have to get everything in a row. We've got all our hardware. We've got all our nuts chased, tapped out, ready to go, clean threads. We've got tape on the body of the car. As you can see, Doug is finishing up some taping over there. We even got tape on the front end of the car just to give us some wiggle room just in case something happens, okay? So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and put the front end on and start tightening it in place, keeping everything loose until Mike is happy with the lining up, and then we'll start tightening the hardware and go on to the inner fenders.
All right, let Sam get the 2 bolts lined up in the front. Kind of let it hang from those up there. Come on back a little bit. There you go. Okay, cool. I'm up there. A little bit more. There we go, right there.
Stay tuned to the next episode of Sam's Garage, where we continue to work on the Hudson Hornet and Buick Skylark projects.